Well, hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us. We are here today with CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Denise Verdicchio with SHI International, and we're partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT, CDOIQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. And today I have the absolute pleasure of speaking with Dorothy Aronson, who is the CIO of the National Science Foundation. So Dorothy, welcome, and thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Denise. It's my pleasure.
Can you tell us, let's just take a step back. First of all, tell us what your definition of innovation is, because I think that is such a widely used term. And I think for different people, it means different things. So I'd love to just get your take on what innovation is. And then we sort of touched on this earlier, especially with your Hopper, the Hopper platform, but talk about how important it is for organizations that are likely not doing this, which is many, to create the platform or create the environment where outside of IT, innovation is happening. So definition of innovation, and then how do we create environments where it's happening everywhere?
So I actually looked innovation up when I saw your question.
Yeah.
One of the synonyms is invention, which I believe to be the case. And so, and one of the examples they used was music. So I would say, and I agree with that definition very much. I mean, innovation can happen in any field. I hope it is happening, and it means bringing some new idea forward and maybe making it happen. So, because the idea itself exist as an innovation? I don't think so. It's an idea first, and then someone does something with it. I think it's really important to, with respect to bringing, I'm so sorry, I forgot your question. With respect to
it's basically like how do we create environments where innovation is, where it's everywhere in the organization, not just in one level, or not just in one department, or not just at the top level.
Right. Definitely. I go with reward it, identify it and reward it. There's something else that's really, really important, which one of the things that I started doing several years ago that has been very successful is to say, you need to identify an important problem to be solved. Okay, here's an important problem for the agency. This is one way of doing it, and saying, almost like a game. And how do we bringing some people? Are you interested in solving this problem? Whoever you are. If you are, would you be willing to give me an hour a week, or a half hour a week, or an hour, and then say, okay, let's talk about the problem. Now, here's the hypothesis. Then people over time will come up with a hypothesis about how to solve the problem. And then you have to say to them, okay, let's test that hypothesis. And whether we succeed or fail, it's irrelevant. What we're doing is testing. We succeed by testing the hypothesis and coming out with a conclusion. And you have to strip away that fear of, well, I have an idea. What if it doesn't work? Do I do it in private so that no one knows that I've stuck my neck out? You have to have that culture in that group of committed individuals who just really want to solve this important problem. You have to have that sense that it's okay to find out that it's not going to work. The other thing I did when we started these innovation teams was so you don't think of it as an innovation team. You think of it as, I have a problem to solve, and it's a really important problem. The second thing is, I think that you have to break the bits of work up into tiny chunks, because it's not somebody's job. So I think we call these micro experiments or something, but micro pilots is what we were calling them. Because what they are is, you break it up into, someone says, well, it'll take months to gather that information. And we say, okay, a micro pilot for you then, whatever your job is, let's say you're an accountant. Your job is to go up, find these 7 numbers and add them together, and come back next time to this group with the sum. So you find what people are able to contribute as from their normal life. You ask them to bring it to the center. That micropilot can fail to hit the total that we expect, or it could succeed. But we learn from that one experience, and then we decide, well, you have to do that 3 more times and see if that works. So it's these very tiny bits that people can contribute, and it has this snowballing effect. When you reach a certain point, then you take it forward to the next level of management and you say, we've discovered this.
Yeah.
Right. So it's about learning how to succeed and fail without feeling like you're failing. Proving a negative is also a success. It's about getting people engaged in solving a problem they think is really important. And it's fun. I mean, it's about gaining the relationships. Again, this comes from learning from each other. I'm not saying, okay, to the IT group, come and solve this business problem. I'm saying to the NSF, I have a problem. Do you agree that this is a problem? So those are all ways that I've found to be successful. I do have to say, though, NSF is not a big organization. If I was in, transportation, could I do that? I don't know. But I do believe that every organization is broken down into workable chunks. Yeah. So I do think that at some level, that chunk has a problem. And if they want to solve it, there's definitely ways to solve it. You might not know how, but there's ways.
That looking at it from the question perspective, like there's a problem that I have to solve, or here's the problem that I have to solve, and how am I going to solve it? To me, I think that actually addresses one of what I feel like is the biggest roadblocks to innovation at all levels of an organization, which is it often feels like it's this big thing. I'm not entrepreneurial, I'm not creative, I'm not, a scientist. How can I, or a technologist, how can I innovate?
Right.
And so when you kind of just use different words and like you said, break it down into these bite-sized micro pilots, which I might actually steal. I'll give you credit though when I do. Oh. I think it just makes it more accessible to everybody. And I look at, even within SHI down the line, like there are people who are doing things every day. Their tasks are to do A, then B, then C, then D. And there's no one better than them to say, B is broken, or we don't need it. We can go from A to C and save 10 minutes,
Right. And you have to encourage that kind of thinking. And, I think people are getting better at it. I don't know why, but people are getting better at us looking at, and I always ask people, what part of your job do you hate the most? That's another way of getting at that, that B that you want to eliminate, right? Yeah. Well, oh God, every day do the same thing. And it just, no one cares. No one reads this report that I've been writing. It's like, well, why are you writing it? So to ask people to use their practical knowledge is very important.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. So talk to me about digital transformation success. Like, what does that look like in a digital transformation project? And is there ever really an end to digital transformation, or is it this continuous iteration or continuous process?
So, yeah, of course, the world will continue to evolve and change all the time. So I don't believe that maybe it won't be called digital transformation next. Yeah. I think there's a lot of digital is puts maybe too much of a technology spin on it, but it's only because, I'm not sure that I'm going to reuse the right analogy here, but maybe when papyrus was created, there was some sort of a revolutionary change, because paper existed instead of having to chisel into rock. And right now, the tool of the pen of choice is the computer. So we're using the computer to change our worlds. I'm not really sure that I think computers probably will become antiquated and invisible because, we see that happening even now with the cloud, and people don't really see the servers they're working on anymore. So, so is it over? I hope not. I hope that the human beings never reach a point where they're satisfied and they say, well, I think I'm going to go back. And again, I think there's a bias from the IT community. I don't know if you know the New Yorker magazine, but there's a very famous, I use this all the time. There's a very famous cover from the New Yorker magazine, which shows New York from the New Yorker's perspective. And New York is huge. Yeah. Fifth Avenue, then Fourth Avenue, right? Lexington, Broadway. You can see every little store. But then you see New Jersey. And then you see like in the middle of the country, there's like the monument with all the presidents' heads on it. And then you see China as like a dot. So
Yeah.
it's like, this is the IT view of the world. We're looking at change as if it's driven by IT only right now. And it's not. IT is the catalyst, right?
Yeah.
So, and there are the last time I was asked about digital strategy, someone said, how do you distinguish? And you have this here too. It's how do you distinguish between the IT and the digital strategy? And I never have. I have never really thought. I think that the most important strategy is the president's management agenda, because I work in the federal government, followed by the NSF strategy, strategic plan. And what I'm trying to do is use technology and data and people and processes, all that stuff, to expedite those two important objectives.
Yeah.
So I don't see those distinctions very clearly. And I do think that all these strategies absolutely must be aligned. You cannot, there's no point in creating a whiz bang solution if people are going to refuse to use it.
Yeah.
Waste of time.
It happens all the time still.
Oh,
though,
yes,
right?
it sure does.
It's amazing how often organizations are missing the mark just because of that one thing.
You didn't ask me this, but I think one of the things that's important to keep in mind is that sometimes the requirements, the IT organization is established, maybe it's funded, but it doesn't have the requirements ironed out yet. And so what is very important to do is have back office projects for those people, because there's also aging infrastructure and aging technology. And so when you don't have, this is not a problem at NSF right now, but it had been in the past. But when you have the funding and you're ready to go as an IT organization, but you don't have the requirements, you better not move ahead. You better instead look inwardly and spend your time preparing for what you hope the future will be. I believe very strongly in self-fulfilling prophecy. I believe that if you imagine a future and then you start thinking, okay, I know we're not there yet, but my job in getting to that future is going to be to upgrade my servers or move them to the cloud or improve the quality of my data. Those things don't necessarily need a whole lot of customer input because the customer's not ready. You have to align everything properly.
Let me just say thank you, Dorothy. It was a real honor to be able to have a conversation with you today, really, very much so. So thanks for joining me today. And for all of those out there, please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews. Thanks so much, Dorothy. Bye, everybody.